Hello everybody, it's me GhostCritic with a Sunday vlog full of comic news, what I've been watching, my hauls, news about the channel, just everything kind of comic book related. And yes, the snow is still coming down here in the UK. Fingers crossed, no work tomorrow, we'll see. Anyway, let's kick off with I'm afraid, another very small comic book haul. Next week, I've been a bit naughty on eBay and got some fantastic Charlton horror comics, and hopefully, given the weather, you never know, I might have them to show next Sunday. But this week, popped into my local comic book shop because they're still doing a whole half-price sale on their modern age comics back issues. So I just picked up a few little things that I was kind of interested in. One, because of my whole, I want to get into more independent comics this year rather than from the big two. I was looking through the Dynamite back catalogue, and while not a great deal of the stuff really appeals to me, I just kind of saw a series of comics that I thought, yes, I'm gonna like those. I'm gonna like those. And it is the anthology series Savage Tales, which I believe actually doesn't run anymore. It was an anthology that came out every other month, and I think it made it to about maybe 9 or 10. So I managed to pick up the first 3 issues at half the cover price, and I spotted issue 7 on eBay and picked that up for, I think in total, postage and packaging, it only came to about £2. So given the cover price is $5.99, which kind of roughly equates to £5 anyway, that was a pretty good deal on that. Also saw this, it was only 50p, Project Superhero, also from Dynamite. Dynamite are a very interesting imprint. They have this kind of old style feel to them in the kind of Silver Bronze Age kind of way, but obviously modern day kind of sensibilities. I think that's what I'm trying to say. You'll be hearing more about Dynamite a little bit later on, but unfortunately, yeah, that was my kind of back issue comic book haul this week. On to news. A few things that I spotted this week on the old internet that I had a bit of a read of and thought, other people might be interested in hearing this as well if they haven't already seen it. An article on Newsarama regarding the whole hoo-ha of Superior Spider-Man kind of made for interesting reading. Obviously that last panel in the first issue of Superior Spider-Man has everyone kind of rolling their eyes back and raising their eyebrows. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but you know, a lot of people have kind of gone, it's way too early to be doing this. It's a kind of get out clause for Dan Slott in case, you know, people don't warm to this idea of Doc Ock being the new Superior Spider-Man. And I know that's pretty much divided a lot of people within the comic book community. But they did make a very interesting point on what could transpire going forward with this. And it's the whole idea that, you know, for a while now, Spider-Man Peter Parker has pretty much had a very, I don't want to say easy life, but a lot of things have been going his way. You know, he's got this great job, he's been part of the Avengers for a few years now, he's getting respect even from J. Jonah Jameson, his love life has been, he's been getting the girls, come on. It might not have gone very well in parts, but he's still been getting the girls. And basically, Peter's life, Spider-Man's life, has looked very rosy, and this hasn't happened for a long time. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, was always this kind of down on his luck kind of superhero, where even like the general public at large weren't sure whether the Spider-Man was a hero or whether he was a menace, like J. Jonah Jameson used to say. So this could be, you know, a kind of road to bringing back Peter to the old style of Spider-Man storytelling, where people aren't no longer sure of him and his position within the whole kind of superhero community, and also kind of makes him maybe work harder when he eventually does come back, because we know he is, for all the, you know, the protestations from Dan Slott that this is the status quo, taking that with a pinch of salt. So it's an interesting article, go over and read that. I kind of missed out on this because this has been announced a couple of weeks ago. I missed out on it last week, but managed to catch an article on CBR, Comic Book Resources. The new writer on Swamp Thing is a guy called Charles Soules. Now, I've never heard of him before. Apparently he's done a title on Image called 27, but he's going to be writing the new Swamp Thing after Scott Snyder leaves in issue 18, so he takes it up with issue 19, and by the sounds of it, he's going to be kind of straddling both the kind of the superhero DC world and what we've become accustomed with Scott Snyder in the kind of the horror genre of the DC imprint. So I'm sure it's going to be a big change, because we've had some great storylines from Scott Snyder, and whenever you put a new writer on a book who's just had, you know, a phenomenal run, and his name is huge within DC anyway, you're gonna get a kind of jolt. So bracing myself for that, but looking forward to someone else's take on Swamp Thing. Bleeding Cool had an article about a comic book that is currently, or was, I think the auction has actually ended now, on the American eBay for issue 1 of Chew. CGC'd at 9.9, so mint as mint can be, apart from obviously a 10. And it had, when I read it, it had 15 bids on it, and it was already up to $1,200 for issue 1 of Chew, and even then it hadn't met the reserve that the seller had put on there. God knows what they were expecting, and whether this comic has actually been sold for what he was hoping for with the reserve. But $1,200 for Chew? I mean, it's a great series, don't get me wrong, I love it. And, you know, half of me is kicking myself for not picking it up in singles because I read it in trade, because then I'd have an issue 1 of that, and I could, it may not necessarily be CGC'd at 9.9, but I'm sure if there's that much interest to buying the number 1, I could have probably sold it for quite a few pennies. I don't get it. I would only ever pay that kind of money for something, you know, really old, and even not in that good a condition. You know, we're talking like your very early, probably FF1, Fantastic Four issue 1, and the like of that. So, I mean, I've never really understood the whole CGC slabbing. Why put a comic book between 2 bits of plastic where you can't actually get at it? But people do it. People make a lot of money off it. People obviously get some enjoyment out of it, and fair play to them. But me, Finally, with news, kind of news related, I guess. Ron Richards from iFanboy, one of my favourite podcasts that I stick in my ear on the way to work, to and from. He's leaving iFanboy to go and work for Image Comics as their new business director. So that kind of leaves a gap in iFanboy. Obviously his loyalties has to lie with his new job, and flipping between a kind of independent now anyway, because they're no longer part of Graphically business. iFanboy have gone back to their independent status of podcasting and bringing you, you know, kind of up-to-date comic book news. So yeah, that's left a gap, which I got a bit worried about. I thought, is this going to be the end of iFanboy? Where am I going to get my iFanboy goodness from anymore? But they're filling in his slot along with Connor and Josh, with a guy called Paul Montgomery, who has been filling in for the guys whenever, you know, they needed an extra guy in there. So never fear, the iFanboy podcasts, in all their varieties, because they put out quite a lot, is still going to be going on. So fortunate. That's it for the news. Again, in my kind of move towards more independent comics, and knowing that, well, obviously cancellation of iFanboy imminent, and needing, well, not needing, but would like to replace iVampire with something new. I kind of looked through March's previews catalogue in the comic book store, and I've picked out 2 more books to add to my pull list. So as of March, I'm picking up a new Dynamite title written by Mark Waid, artwork by Daniel Lindro, and that is Green Hornet. Now, I've never read a Green Hornet title before. I think Kevin Smith did the previous volume, and it seemed to be well received. Missed out on that, so I thought I'd jump on. It's Mark Waid. He does some great independent work, and obviously is writing Daredevil and Indestructible Hulk. So I know that at least the story is going to be top notch. From Image, starting out in March, another new -- 1 called Sex. Yes, Sex. It's written by Joe Casey. He wrote, he's written Godland, he's written Butcher Baker, among loads of other stuff. But he's writing a new ongoing series called Sex. As you can imagine from the title, it's a mature reader's title, and it is centering on a kind of retired superhero who is trying to integrate back into kind of like normal society, and heads down the road of well, sex, hence the title. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be an interesting premise, concept. Joe Casey's already said that this is a very much an experimental way of producing comics, though not in the way we might possibly think, whatever that means. But I'm certainly up for giving that one a go. On to shout outs this week. Videos that I've seen, basically. This isn't necessarily people who have just started and maybe need a little push, but shout outs for videos I've watched and, you know, really enjoyed, and think other people should be watching this as well. Now, the first one isn't necessarily a comic book related video, though it is by one of our members of the YouTube comic book community, and that is Red Vitamin Blue. And he's just put up a video, and I swear I've watched this about 3 or 4 times. It is mesmerising. It's him on a road trip home, and you just see him driving home and all the glorious kind of background scenery to the side of him outside his car, very snowy. I can relate. And he's reading an essay he wrote, I think he said a couple of years ago. And the whole package together, there's some kind of music in the background, but it's very subtle. It's just his voice and then the imagery of him driving the car. It's mesmerising. Really great stuff, and you should really go out there. I'll put the link. Everything I talk about, links in the bottom. But go and check out that video. Someone who was on the Comic Talk podcast ages ago, Brady Dale, who was selling his 7,000 comic book collection. He's been putting up a lot of videos that he obviously links to his eBay site, and he's selling, as I said, a lot of his comics. And he's just shown his collection of basically women in comic books and the kind of cosmic stuff. I got a little bit excited with the cosmic stuff because big Silver Surfer fan, but America doesn't ship to the UK, and I probably would never be able to afford even the post and packaging anyway, so that's a shame. But one of our other comic book community members has been buying Brady Dale's back collection, and that is our own Captain Cummins. And there's a link for his video where he shows off what he just bought, and that was the whole women of comic books. And there was one other one. And I've forgotten because I didn't write it down because I've only just watched it. I'm really sorry. If I remember, I'll put a link in there. Finally-ish, last week in my vlog I was talking about new ideas that I was going to put on for my channel, and one of them was inspired by that book, the 100 Comic Books You Must Read, and I was going to do my own version of it. Now it's going to be called For Your Comic Consideration, because I don't want to say you must read these comics. These are just going to be single issues of my favourite comic books that I own, and I'll explain why in the videos. I hate that word must read. Puts me off straight away, like, you know, I know better than you, because I certainly don't. These are just going to be comic books that I've enjoyed, that have some meaning to me. And that will be coming up, not this week, but the following week when I'm away on holiday going to see my papa. Other ideas I've been having is a series of videos called Comic Reruns. And Comic Reruns, if this goes ahead and I have the time and I can be bothered to go back into my long boxes, is I'm going to pick a storyline from comics that are at least a year old, and do a review of them. Now they could be comics that I hated, storylines I hated, and I'll begin reasons why, or it could be storylines that I've absolutely loved, and obviously the reasons why for them. And finally, included in that week of videos while I'm away, I was approached by a independent British comic book creator a few weeks ago, who has been putting out comic books for quite some time now, and he asked if he could send me some of his work to review and show all you guys out there, and hopefully direct you in his to his website. So I have a very special video which I'm putting together and compiling of that. I'm not going to give out too much at the moment. You'll have to wait for the video on that. And that pretty much wraps it up this week, I think. I'm going to go back to hiding under a blanket, watching alternate episodes of Blake 7 and Misfits, I think. That's it for me. You take care, all of you lot out there, especially if you're in the UK at the moment with all this horrible wintry weather. And I'll see you soon. Take care and bye bye.